private sector, and what is the process, how long it takes, all the nuance or specifics about this work that I wanted to share more about. And today I have an honor to do this with Miguel. Hi, Miguel.
Hey, Estelle, so good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So, Miguel will introduce himself soon. I just wanted to bring Miguel and share his experience of how this looks like from his perspective. Of course, for corporations, for industries, there are always specifics, but still, to give you, Miguel, a background, I have a lot of humanitarians working with me following this channel. And the question humanitarians are facing currently is how do we transition to something else other than the humanitarian sector because of the funding crisis, right? So, therefore, we're exploring different options. So, we want to then find out more about what it is like to work to the private sector in our mind. So, Miguel, the first question, let's introduce yourself so people know you, and then we get into the questions, and then we'll see how we go with this.
Sounds great. Thank you so much again for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Someone that I met on LinkedIn and I invited to be on my own podcast, and here I am now in yours. It's the first time I get this type of invitation, so I'm super excited. So, introducing myself, my name is Miguel. My last name is Oliveira. I am a son, I'm a brother, I am an uncle, I'm a husband, and I'm a friend. I'm a black man. Right now, I'm wearing gray t-shirt and dark blue jacket, round glasses, and my hair is stylish in short red locks. In case you can't see me, I am Brazilian. I was born and raised in Rio. I've been living in the U.S. for the past 7 years. I'm a psychologist by trade, a very passionate HR professional. I am an avid traveler. I'm a food lover. I have no kids. I have no pets, and I live in Denver, Colorado, with my husband Jim.
Mhm. Amazing. I got to know a lot more than last time, Miguel.
Yes, that's true.
When we did the podcast together. Yeah. So yeah, Miguel happened to invite me for a podcast and we did an amazing podcast together. So you will find out more about that. And then I invited him if he would like to share his expertise. So that's why he's here generously spending this time with us. So, Miguel, the first question I guess that everyone is curious about, how is it to work in the corporate world? Is it scary? Is it, I don't know, what are the cliches that people have? Competitive or is it like demanding? What is your experience?
Wow, I love that question, Estelle. And I have to say, I had to stop for a while to truly kind of get to this answer, because
Mm,
I probably need to start by saying that I identify as a workaholic in treatment, like real treatment, like therapy,
mm,
because I love the work I do. I would do the
mhm,
work that I do for free. It's deeply connected to my purpose in life.
mm,
So my experience might not be everyone else's. One, because I'm not everyone else, and everyone else is not me, but also because I haven't worked in all companies that exist. All that
mhm,
said, I've been working for almost 20 years, and I personally love the corporate environment.
mhm,
I've worked for medium and small and large companies in industries such as telecommunications, oil and gas, manufacturing, CPG, and the experience has been very similar. In some way, shape, or form, hierarchy is part of the game,
mm.
processes are part of the game, meetings, a lot of them are part of the game.
Okay.
Politics are part of the game too.
Yeah.
But resources are also part of the game.
Mhm,
Infrastructure, collaborating with amazing people, and learning, being offered career growth opportunities, at times being able to see the world in work trips, having a
mhm,
robust benefits package, the stability to know that you will get paid at the end of the 2 weeks period. As you can see, there are a lot of positives and also
mhm,
some things that probably would make some people dread or cringe.
mhm,
But that for me don't make the corporate or doesn't make the corporate environment less attractive.
mhm,
And the last thing I think I want to mention is, I think it's actually the most important one, is that the ability to contribute to something that is a lot bigger than myself is very appealing to me. I
Mm-hmm.
currently work for a French company called Danone. It's known here in the US as Danone. It's a company that makes food and beverages. Some of the products are actually up here, um, including the Danone yogurt and so many other yogurt products. And we are in a mission to bring health through food to as many people as possible. And while I work in HR, and therefore I don't make the product, when I go to the grocery store, I see our product on the shelf and feel like I played a role for that product to be here,
Mm-hmm.
available to feed someone with healthy food, and that means a lot. Answering one of your comments at the beginning here, it's not scary, and it's not cutthroat. Moving from Brazil here 7 years ago, I felt like, okay, I'm going to get into this place where everyone has a knife to stab me on the back. And that's not the reality I've ever experienced. There are different
Mm-hmm.
personalities, different nationalities, different work styles, leadership styles, communication styles. But I believe that if you're true to yourself, you can easily navigate the corporate environment like you would navigate any other.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I love that. So it was very reassuring to know how the perspectives of the corporate world, right? And of course, it's a very diverse world, just like with the humanitarian sector. So therefore, to hear your perspective, that's amazing. So the next question, I guess, then is how the recruitment process that people need to be prepared for. Can you really be prepared for? We, at least a lot of us in the humanitarian sector, are so used to certain way of doing a recruitment process. In some way, maybe we're so like used to certain way, and now getting ready to something different makes us also feel a bit uncomfortable, right? So therefore, how is it in Danone or your experience as HR professional in the private sector? And then maybe we can ask more specific questions once you tell more about it.
Sounds great. So I'm going to share with you a more broad view of what recruitment processes usually look like for
Mm-hmm.
people at different levels. I need to start saying that the recruitment process starts with an open role, which can
Mm-hmm.
either be the replacement of someone who left or moved to another role, or a brand new role because the company is expanding their workforce. Most corporations are using position management for headcount control. And what does position management means? It means that the organization has a predetermined number of positions, let's call it seats, and they are either available or not. They might forecast new positions throughout the year, but creating a new seat requires a business case, and it's something that most companies are careful about. The other thing that I think it's also important to highlight is that I know it might sound disheartening at first, but please, I invite everyone just to bear with me for a little second. For those looking for an opportunity in the corporate world, um, with a few exceptions, a lot of companies start the recruitment process internally, which means they post the job somewhere only employees can see it so that opportunities for growth and development are explored by current employees first. If there is not a qualified employee as the candidate for that new role, then the process starts externally. And the good news is that if an internal move happens, a domino effect takes place. And most likely, the last standing piece of the domino will require an external process to be initiated. And that's a good opportunity for people to get a foot in the door for organizations. But let me walk you through the steps of the process. Strong majority of the companies, the hiring manager notifies the talent acquisition team that they have a need. If not a talent acquisition team, the HR team. There is usually an alignment call where the recruiter hears from the hiring manager what they are looking for. The job is posted. Some companies use LinkedIn, some use other job boards, others posted on LinkedIn, but direct people to their own website to apply. The role stays open for a certain period of time, and it really depends on the complexity of the role and also the amount of candidates that you're getting applications
Mm-hmm.
from. And then the recruiter starts looking at resumes. And based on what the hiring manager is looking for, there is usually a phone screening process where the candidate identified as a good fit for the role would be on a phone call with the recruiter. After that conversation, if the recruiter feels like, okay, you are a suitable candidate, then they present this candidate to the hiring manager. There is usually this idea or this rule that it's you don't approach a hiring manager with less than three candidates for them to look at. So that short list of three, they interview, and I have to be honest, it can be from anywhere from 1 to 10 interviews. It really depends on the level of the role. The higher the level and the complexity of the role, the more interviews you can expect to have. In my personal experience, I try to combine these interviews as much as possible and have like panels where 2 or 3 people talk to the candidate at the same time, just to avoid the process kind of taking too long and being too tiring, because telling your story 10 times about for the same role can be exhausting.
Yeah.
Um, I would say during the interview process, and the further you get to the closer to the end of the interview process, if there is any type of test that is needed to assess technical skills, it usually happens around that time. And based on the results for the whole process, all the interviews, the phone screening, your resume, the testing that maybe you did, the hiring manager makes a decision, and that decision leads to an offer, which the candidate can accept or not. That's where the negotiation usually happens. And that closes the recruitment process, and we start what we call the pre-boarding process before the onboarding, which is when the person actually joins the organization.
Oh,
Is that what you're looking for, Asel?
yes, that
Okay.
is. So now maybe we get a bit into the details of what you're saying just for the sake of reaching more people. So,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to interview process, what is your suggestions as to how people can get ready or get themselves ready for how to present, and what are the things that the company might want to usually learn about? What is your experience of it? And I think we will talk more about how to increase chances of humanitarians to be able to compete in this process, right? So the interview process would be interesting for one. The other one would be in terms of the recruiter, as I understand, it's another agency who does the finding the suitable candidate for the company. Are these recruitment agencies are somewhere known that people can also, I don't know, talk to, or it is more like they're going to do the whole process and no one has really influence over it in that sense? What is your experience?
All right, a lot of questions there. So let me start with the first one. Not every company uses recruitment agencies. A lot of them have internal talent acquisition teams.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, I would say identifying who that person is and connecting with them on LinkedIn, telling them about your interest in the organization can go a long ways.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding how to prepare for the interview, Lascelle, I'd say I'm going to take one step back to say there's not a world now where the same resume is good for every role. The reality is you need to look at the job description and try to use very similar language to the one on the job description on your resume, helping people understand how the work you did, maybe in a role called something else in a completely different industry, how does that relate to the work that you're kind of saying that you're able to do now? So let's be honest with ourselves. There are a lot of recruitment systems out there that are leveraging technology and AI to do the first screening of resumes. And if you're not very clear on what is it and how you align to the profile, most likely you're going to stop at the very first filter and no longer be able to be in front of the recruiter. So I would say, even before thinking about an interview, think about how can I make this resume be seen by a
Mm-hmm.
recruiter?
Mm-hmm.
And once it's seen, it needs to be something that very clearly states what you're looking for. These recruiters are working sometimes in 20, 30, 50 roles at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they are really looking for the words, and they're just going to kind of scan through your resume and look for those keywords. And if they find, they're going to say, okay, this go on the yes pile. If the words are not there, it probably goes on the no pile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'd say having a short resume really helps. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the more experience you have, you feel like your resume should have 10 pages. And I remember 20 years ago, people used to have 10-page resumes and 3, 4 pages cover letters. I personally don't think I don't necessarily see the value of cover letters, if I can be honest with you.
Yeah.
If your resume is succinct and kind of tells a strong message, especially with a summary at the very top saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm capable of doing, this is what you can expect from me, in alignment to the job description language, there are big chances that this conversation is going to go well. Having that elevator pitch when the recruiter calls you, finding a place that is actually quiet for you to engage in this conversation. Recruiters are not monsters. If they call you and say, "Can you talk now?" and you can't, you can just say, "I really can't right now. Can I call you in 5 minutes, or can I text you back on this number?" That's absolutely fine. Recruiters are human beings too, and they have a lot of understanding. And I think we also need to understand that it's a two-way street, because we may think that the recruiter is serving you, but you're also serving the recruiter. You are the
Mhm.
resource that they need in order to do
Mhm.
their job. So I
Yeah.
think that covers most of the pieces of the question that you asked.
Yes, I love this because I think one of the things that we need to really get in our head, and this is me speaking to my amazing humanitarians, is that in any process, we want to come to the table with that equality, with that power of we are here to offer our services expertise, right? We're not here to, I don't know, ask, beg, and
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get something and then we'll see kind of thing. Even though through the job search, some of the time it feels like we just need to get something else, but still come to the table with what you want from this conversation, from this job, why you're an amazing fit, but also what is it you are wanting for yourself, for your growth from this company as well. So, therefore, this is a good reminder. So,
absolutely.
continuing that conversation about what will help humanitarians to increase their chances in the private sector, let's say some of the roles that they might be applying for. So some of the roles that I can think of in the leadership role, and I know Miguel, you are very into leadership topics, so maybe you can speak to that. Some of the other roles in the management role, because a lot of people have management experiences, right? In those levels of jobs, whether it's leadership or management type of jobs, what would you say? What would help them increase their chances of being successful in that recruitment process?
Yeah, I'm gonna double click on or double down on something that I said previously, Estelle. I think it's really, and I love what you said. The company is not doing you a favor by giving you a job. I mean, it is a transaction at the end of the day. We can kind of
Yes.
make it very romantic and say it's not. It is a transaction. They pay you a salary for you to do a job,
Yeah.
so they need you just as much as you need them. Of course, we have an offer of candidates. It's much higher than the amount of roles available. So it's almost like it's an employer market, the same way that here
Mm-hmm.
in Denver we had a buyer's market where
Mm-hmm.
if you have more money, you get it. The seller would just
Mm-hmm.
kind of give it to you, which is actually a seller market, not a buyer one. But anyway, I think being able to articulate your value proposition with the confidence of know what they are doing. Because if you're not confident that you can do the job, most recruiters should be able to pick up on that. And they're going to feel like, okay, this person thinks they can do it, but they can't. I can tell
Mm-hmm.
you an experience that I don't think I'll ever forget. I was interviewing someone for an internship role for the summer, and this person showed up for the conversation. And I have this practice that I don't read resumes before I talk to candidates. I'm not a talent acquisition professional, so whoever comes to me is already on that short list, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to learn anything from them or assume anything about them by reading the resume in advance. So I show up to this interview with this guy, and he starts talking to me, and his only experience was in the military, but his ability to articulate how those experiences connect to everything that I was looking for was so powerful. He used
Mm-hmm.
words such as, I worked cross functionally. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
how? Oh, different functions within the military working together. I was like, yeah, I can see that. Oh, I had to lead. I was like, okay, did you have a team? No, I had to lead through influence. I didn't have any authority, but I had to use my influence to be able to get people to get the work done. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
And most interviews are going to be, we call behavior based interviews, where they're going to
Mm-hmm.
basically ask you, tell me about a time when you did this, tell me about a time
Mm-hmm.
when you did that. So having your repertoire of examples ready is very important. Rehearsing these stories over and over again, making them short, make them succinct. Sometimes I feel like when you have a lot of passion for what we do, it's very easy for us to speak more than we need to explain it.
That is
So
true.
I would probably say an answer should not last more than 3 to 4 minutes. If you've been talking for 7 minutes, the recruiter is probably thinking this person talks too much. I cannot put them in front of the hiring manager. So I think that's something that I would probably call out. Collaboration, communication, results orientation are three things that come to mind for me. And as I said, from a leadership/management perspective, it's tricky because I think the highest you go, the highest you get, um, the least your technical skills matter. It's
Mm-hmm.
more about leading and getting results through people, or leading leaders, if you will. However, you need to know enough to be dangerous to be able to say, this doesn't feel right, or this doesn't sound right. And that's where I think being very sensitive to the type of role that you're applying for. I mean, if you are a humanitarian today and you're applying for a director of chemicals in a pharmaceutical organization, as much as you may have all the experience in the world in the leadership space and being a director, if you don't understand that so that you can coach, mentor your employees and things like that on things that are technical, it's very unlikely that you're going to get the job. If you're looking for a role like a chief of staff, a project manager, a PMO, um, these are jobs where the crossover of competencies, or the cross pollination of competencies is more clear, and it might not be the most sexy job, but might be the one that's going to get you in, and then you can grow from there.
Yes, I love that. And also, Miguel, I think one of the things that I'm realizing as I talk to you is that there are a lot of things that we in the humanitarian sector already do and use, such as cross functional functions, as you mentioned, problem solving. We're very good at problem solving in war zones. So,
Hmm.
you know, we are like, okay, what else can I do that is so creative with least resources? I'm here to do, right? So there are a lot of things that we are already good at it, and we may be able to even bring this to the interview. And in the humanitarian sector, especially in the UN context, we tend to use a lot of the example based behavioral interviews, right? How did you solve this? And what are the hindsights of learning? So these are the things we're already good at. So I'm happy that humanitarians can relate to and also speak about in the private sector. So now, maybe more the question of how long it will take. I guess it's really, I don't know, very specific, right? Depending on a lot of factors. But maybe just for orientation, you can say something on this point. What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely. So I'm going to have to use the word that I probably hate the most in the English language: depends. And I'm gonna tell you why. I just want to say something before I go into this answer, just to complement something that you said that I think is important. Using the right language during the interview is also important. And what I mean by that is, if you show up to an interview, you've done all the job, but you've learned throughout your life that you should not take credit for it. So you say, the team did this,
Mm-hmm.
we did that. It
Mm-hmm.
does not bring the level of clarity of what the role that you actually played in that achievement was. So, focusing on I statements, this is the moment you feel comfortable putting tooting your own horn and saying, "Hey, I did this. I led this. I led the team. I presented to the CEO." Versus we did because we used too many people. We need to understand what is that individual did for that specific task. Talking about the length of the process, as I said, it depends. I've seen processes take 2 days. I was a recruiter at the very beginning of my career, and I remember hiring 50 people in 4 days for an activation for a mobile carrier. It was back in Brazil, but it can last 3 months, and sometimes it can last 6 months. Depends on how big the organization is, the complexity of the role, the amount of interviews, and things like that. The one thing that I want to add is that once you have an offer and you sign, I know most of us want to start working as fast as possible, especially if you're not employed right now. But any large organization is going to need at least a month between the moment you say yes and the moment they can have you on board. There are a lot of processes that happen behind the scenes. When you think about the process itself, the recruitment process, sometimes the hiring manager has to go on vacation or go on a leave of absence, and things like that. So reconciling calendars is very hard. And I also need to say that at times process just gets stuck. They got put on hold because of a hiring freeze, because the results are not following, or because the organization is no longer confident that they need that specific role and they need to go back to the drawing board. So I know it is hard, and waiting sometimes can be very frustrating. And if you get radio silence back from the company you're interviewing from, don't hesitate to reach out to them. As I said before, if a recruiter is recruiting for 50 roles and they have, let's say, 3 candidates for each of the 50 roles, they cannot call 150 people every week to say, hey, the process is still going, okay? It's the responsibility of the candidate to keep the conversation going as well. It's taking too long, send a friendly email like, hey, I'm still interested, is the process still going? And you can ask at the beginning of the process, like, do you have a timeline in mind, so that you can kind of manage your own expectations too.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So that leads us to a beautiful question that many humanitarians are currently asking, which is the networking, right?
Yeah.
Now, Miguel, the question I think is more like not only how networking works in the private sector, but also if, let's say, a job is announced, let's say on LinkedIn, and people all saw it, and then they sent their application, let's say, the humble people usually would do that, and then they wait for the answer essentially. And then, like, I think people even have fears of writing something to the recruiter or to whoever, right? Because they feel like, oh, am I influencing the process too much? Is it unethical? Is it not how it should be? There are a lot of questions that come up. So that's why, what would you say is a, in quote, healthy amount of
Hmm.
networking around that job that someone saw in the private sector, and what is it where you went over the line and you shouldn't be doing this?
Hmm. That's an awesome question, Asel. And I should probably say networking is key, and for a number of reasons. And talking about this proactive net or this reactive networking that you just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's nothing wrong about you applying for the role. And if you happen to know who the hiring manager is, dropping them a message on LinkedIn to say, hey, I just want you to know that I'm super interested. This is a little bit about who I am. I applied for the role already. I would love the opportunity to talk to you. Or send a message similar to that to the recruiter too. That's absolutely fine. There is nothing unethical about it. In Portuguese we say that if you're not seen, you're not remembered. So make yourself seen so that people can remember you and keep you in mind. What I want to talk about today, however, Sal, is about a different type of networking, which I'll call here the proactive type of networking. Um, I don't know if a lot of people know, but most companies or a lot of companies here in the US have what we call referral programs. So what are referral programs? The company posts a job externally, employees have the chance to refer people and they know from their network. And if the person gets hired, there's usually a monetary incentive. I've seen companies paying anywhere from $500 to $5,000 because you referred someone to a job. So you help the company close that job faster,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the level of the role, on the size of the company, and so on. But these programs exist. So what I'm trying to say here is that humanitarians should map the organizations they are interested in. They should find individuals who do similar work to the work they do, ideally at the same level,
Mm-hmm.
and network with those individuals before you need anything. Being very honest with you and personally, if someone reached out to me on LinkedIn to say, hey, I saw this open role in your company, can you refer me? And I've never heard of you, I don't know who you are, I'm going to either ignore the message or just say, no, I don't feel comfortable referring you.
Yeah.
But if someone says, hey, I'm interested in your company, can you connect with me to tell me what your experience working there looks like? If they say that, and that just opens a door. So there is this opportunity for this quick intro. We know each other. I think keeping yourself seen is also key. So go back to LinkedIn, like the person's posts, comment on the person posts, make sure that they see that you're still there, that you are engaging. Because if a later point they say, "Hey, Miguel, I happen to see this job in the company you work for. Would you feel comfortable referring me?" I would be more likely to help. Um, One, because I kind of know you. And by referring you, of course, there's an expectation that you know the person. And I've heard of people seeing jobs on their companies, going to private forums with experts in a certain area, saying, "Hey, I have this job. Anyone interested?" And they kind of get those names and
Mm,
send as a
yeah,
referral so
yeah,
they
yeah,
can make the money on top of it. That's not what
yeah,
the process is supposed to be.
yeah.
That is unethical if we're talking about ethics. But when you think about really building those relationships in advance and making yourself available, usually finishing the conversation with like, "What can I do for you? How can I help you?" Again, building that connection and building that mutual agreement is very, very important and can truly open doors for someone who is looking for a new position.
I love it, Miguel. I was talking a lot lately about how to build powerful networks that advocate on your behalf, even when you're not asking for it. And
Mm,
that comes from you building relationships, right? Not being transactional and just appearing when you need something and then disappearing afterwards. That is something no one likes. Or coming to the table with this begging energy, as I call it, like energy of, okay, I need something, someone please help. That also does not really help because we humans tend to notice when this is off and then we want to get away. So therefore, building relationships before or even as you're transitioning in this process, get to know the people in the private sector if you happen to know them, and get to know their experience and roles and how they're doing it. All of this that will be helpful for you to have an idea of how things work in another sector, even out of curiosity, right? And then you start building your case of whether you would like to work there, how you would like to work there. And then the other thing that I'm really seeing the value of nowadays is that because the recruitment process is so competitive, your job is to make it so tailor made to that
mm,
job, right? So, therefore, insider information as to what the language is, what the ethics is, what the behavior is, all of this, only people who work in that environment will know. And as much as we believe we will know, we will not have those inside stories, right? So that's why knowing people and having those relationships will help you get that information faster than any other way. So that's why I think I'm also glad in some way that we're getting back to the basics of human nature where
me
we're
too.
connecting genuinely, right? And not just because I need something from you and can we just connect in this moment and then disappear, which I have been guilty of in the past. And now feeling like, okay, I really want to get to connecting to people genuinely.
That's
Amazing.
amazing.
Anything else, Miguel, before we finish up this conversation?
Yeah, I think there is just one final message that I want to leave for those listening to us. I wish I could say that's not the case, but the market is hard right now. So I just want to encourage people to not lose hope. There's a lot of job hugging right now, given the uncertainty or in the uncertain environment that we are all living in. And besides that, for medium to large corporations, people were waiting for the performance bonus to drop before they decide to make a move. And usually, performance bonuses drop between February and March. So I would recommend that you start building these connections today so that when February or March arrives, you can start moving. And I mean, January, March arrives, people start moving into new roles and into new companies. You already have the network in place and can benefit from it.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Miguel. It has been an honor and amazing conversation with you. I don't know, you have this energy of so much warmth and welcoming, and I just feel like it's great talking to you every time I see you. And if people want to talk to you, are you open to having messages? How is your policy?
Absolutely. I don't have a policy. I love connecting with people. That's because of one of those connections that we are here today. You said yes to me,
Yes,
so I tend to say yes to as many people as I can. So people can find me on
amazing.
LinkedIn as Miguel Oliveira. You can also send me an email at miguel@leadershiptrailmix.com. Leadership Trail Mix is the name of my podcast. So these are probably the two easiest ways for you to connect with me, ask your questions, and I'll try my very best to help everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Miguel. And thank you for your expertise and experience. And I'm sure people are like absorbing everything of, okay, this is how we're orienting ourselves. So therefore, and I'm looking forward to doing more things together. So we'll discuss that further. And thank you everyone for listening, watching. And if any questions, of course, let me know. And in the meantime, have a beautiful